The Vrelian Empire patrol fleet drifted through the cold darkness of space near the Kepler Traverse, their sensors sweeping the void as they had done for countless cycles. Commander Thaxon sat in his command chair, his 3 eyes half closed in boredom. In his 40 years of service, he had encountered hundreds of primitive species taking their first stumbling steps into the galaxy. Today would be no different, or so he thought. The sensor alarm chirped softly. A technician's voice crackled through the bridge. "Commander, we have detected an unknown vessel at the edge of our scanning range. Configuration does not match any known civilization in our database." Thaxion's eyes opened fully. In a galaxy where his people had cataloged 17,000 different species across 4 galaxies, finding something truly unknown was rare. "Show me," he commanded. The main display flickered to life, showing a vessel that looked almost disappointingly ordinary. It was roughly 800 meters long, constructed with sharp angles and flat surfaces that suggested a species still learning the basics of interstellar engineering. Primitive kinetic weapons dotted the hull like small bumps. The commander's initial excitement faded into familiar disappointment. "Another young race with more courage than sense," Thaxion muttered. "Initiate standard deep scan protocol. Let us see what these newcomers have cobbled together." The scanning beams lanced out across the void, invisible waves of energy that would penetrate the vessel and reveal every secret it held. The Vrelians had perfected this technology over millennia. Nothing could hide from their scans. Within moments they would know everything about this primitive ship and its builders. The first readings began flowing across the sensor technician's screen. Then he froze. His secondary hearts, which normally beat in a slow, steady rhythm, suddenly began racing. His breathing quickened. "Commander," he said, his voice tight with confusion, "the power signature, it makes no sense." Thaxion leaned forward in his chair. "Explain." The technician's claws clicked nervously against his console. "The readings show a contained stellar core at the center of the vessel. A miniaturized star, Commander. It is generating power levels that should be impossible for a civilization at this apparent technological level." "That cannot be correct," Thaxion said flatly. "Check your equipment. Run a diagnostic." The diagnostic completed in seconds. All systems functioning perfectly. The technician looked up at his commander with wide, frightened eyes. "Sir, the equipment is functioning normally. I recommend a second scan to confirm." Thaxion ordered the second scan. Every member of the bridge crew watched in tense silence as the beams swept across the unknown vessel once more. The results came back identical. The ship was powered by a captured star, somehow compressed and controlled within a magnetic bottle that should not exist. But that was only the beginning of the nightmare. The deeper scans revealed details that made Thaxion's blood run cold. The outer hull was not constructed from metal or the advanced composite ceramics that most spacefaring races used. The analysis showed compressed degenerate matter, the same exotic material that existed only in the crushing gravitational fields of neutron stars. Somehow, impossibly, these unknown beings had found a way to stabilize it, shape it, and wrap their entire ship in armor that should have collapsed into a singularity the moment it left the neutron star's gravity well. "How?" Thaxion whispered. "How is this possible?" The science officer, an elderly Vrelian who had served in the fleet for 60 years, spoke up from his station. His voice trembled slightly. "Commander, I have studied physics my entire life. What we are seeing violates our understanding of material science. To stabilize degenerate matter requires technology that our best scientists believe is centuries beyond our current capabilities. Yet these beings, whoever they are, have done it. And they have done it on what appears to be a small military vessel." Thaxion felt his confidence, built over decades of encountering inferior species, begin to crack like ice under pressure. He stared at the image of the angular ship on his display. It looked so ordinary, so unremarkable. But the scans told a different story. This was not a primitive vessel. This was something far more dangerous. "Continue the scan," he ordered, though part of him wanted to turn the fleet around and flee. "I want to know everything about this ship and whoever built it." The crew worked in nervous silence, their instruments probing deeper into the mysterious vessel. None of them realized they were about to discover something that would change the balance of power in the entire galaxy forever. The biological scan began automatically, and the results appeared on the main screen within seconds. The Vrelian bridge crew leaned closer to their displays, eager to learn about the beings who had built such an impossible ship. What they discovered made every one of them wish they had never initiated the scan at all. The ship contained 847 life forms, all of the same species. The computer labeled them as humans based on data extracted from the vessel's systems. The initial analysis seemed normal enough. They were carbon-based, bilateral symmetry, endoskeletal structure. Standard characteristics for intelligent life. But as more data flooded in, the mood on the bridge shifted from curiosity to horror. The science officer's voice broke the silence, and for the first time in his long career, Thaxan heard genuine fear in it. "Commander, these beings, their homeworld is classified as a Class 12 death world." Thaxan felt his blood turn to ice. He had only encountered a Class 12 designation twice before in his entire career. Such planets were nightmare worlds where everything from the atmosphere to the native predators actively tried to kill anything living there. Most intelligent species evolved on calm, stable worlds with gentle gravity and peaceful environments. Not these humans. "The gravity on their homeworld is 1.2 times standard," the science officer continued, his claws trembling as he read the data. "Their atmosphere is an oxygen-nitrogen mix so corrosive and reactive that it would dissolve our flesh in minutes if we breathed it. The planet experiences violent weather patterns, tectonic instability, and has survived multiple extinction-level events. Commander, their world has tried to kill them for millions of years and they survived. They thrived. But the physical data was only the beginning. The psychological profile made everything worse. The medical scanner had analyzed their brain chemistry, their neural patterns, their evolutionary history. The results appeared on screen and Thaxan read them with growing dread. Humans were persistence predators. On their violent homeworld, they had evolved a hunting strategy that was simple and terrifying. They did not rely on speed or strength or venom like sensible predators. Instead, they simply refused to stop. They could track prey for days without rest. They could override their own pain receptors through willpower alone. They could push their bodies beyond normal limits, suppressing survival instincts that would make any rational creature stop and rest. They hunted by being too stubborn to quit. The computer had also extracted historical data from the ship's database. Thaxan scrolled through it, his horror growing with each entry. The humans had survived ice ages that buried continents under glaciers. They had endured supervolcano eruptions that blocked out their sun for years. They had lived through asteroid impacts, plagues, and climate shifts that would have exterminated softer species. And throughout it all, they had fought each other constantly, perfecting warfare against enemies who thought exactly like them. Their history was soaked in blood. For 10,000 years, they had waged war with increasingly deadly weapons. They had split the atom and used it as a bomb. They had created chemical agents that could melt flesh from bone. They had engineered diseases as weapons. All of this they had done to each other, to their own kind, on their single isolated planet before ever reaching the stars. Then the weapons manifest appeared on screen, and Thaxan actually stood up from his chair in shock. His legs felt weak. Around the bridge, several crew members made sounds of distress. The ship carried 300 nuclear warheads, each capable of destroying a city. It held biological weapons in sealed containers, viruses and bacteria engineered to spread through populations and sterilize worlds. Chemical weapons that could poison atmospheres. Kinetic munitions that could crack tectonic plates. And gravitational charges that could trigger earthquakes on any planet with a molten core. "This cannot be real," Thaxan whispered. No species would arm a single ship with enough weapons to destroy multiple planets. The science officer checked the data 3 times before responding. "Commander, the manifest is accurate. But there is something else. Something worse." He paused, his voice barely audible. "This vessel is classified in their fleet registry as a light cruiser. A scout ship. This is not their main battle vessel. This is what they send ahead to explore." Silence fell across the bridge like a suffocating blanket. Every Vrelian present understood what that meant. If this was a light cruiser, what did their actual warships look like? What weapons did they carry? Thaxan slowly sat back down in his command chair. His people had ruled this sector of space for 6,000 years. They had fought wars against dozens of species and won every time. But now, staring at the scan results, he realized they had never encountered anything like humanity. These beings had crawled out of a hell world, survived everything their planet threw at them, and built weapons that made Vrelian military technology look primitive. And they were out here in the dark between stars, exploring. The alarm on the human ship blared suddenly, cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge. Lieutenant Marcus Hayes looked up from his navigation console, his eyes narrowing at the sensor readings. "Captain, we are being scanned. Deep penetration scan, military grade. Someone is reading us from bow to stern." Captain Rebecca Mitchell set down her coffee and moved to the tactical display. Her face remained calm, but her jaw tightened slightly. In the 3 years she had commanded the USFS Indomitable, Nobody had been foolish enough to scan a Terran Federation warship without permission. Source: 6 vessels, unknown configuration, bearing 27 Mark III. Distance approximately 400,000 kilometers. They have been scanning us for the past 90 seconds. Hayes brought up the visual feed. 6 sleek ships hung in the darkness, their hulls reflecting the distant starlight. Mitchell considered her options for exactly 3 seconds. Then she nodded to the communications officer. Lieutenant Cooper, open a channel. Standard first contact protocol, but make it clear we are not happy. Lieutenant Amy Cooper's fingers flew across her console. She activated the tight beam transmitter and spoke in a flat, professional voice that the translation software would carry to the unknown vessels. Unknown vessel, you have conducted an invasive scan of a Terran Federation warship. Explain yourselves. On the Vrelian command ship, the message arrived with startling clarity. Commander Thaxion listened to it twice. There was no fear in that voice. No uncertainty. No pleading. Just a direct question that expected an immediate answer. The human did not even acknowledge that she was outnumbered 6-1. She simply demanded an explanation as if she had every right to it. Thaxion decided to establish dominance immediately. He activated the standard first contact broadcast, a message the Vrelian Empire had perfected over thousands of years. For 14 minutes, he detailed the Empire's vast territory, their military supremacy, their countless member species, and their absolute control over this region of space. It was a speech designed to make primitive species understand their place in the galactic order. The human response came back in 3 seconds. Acknowledged. Now answer the question. Several Vrelian officers gasped audibly. Never, in the entire history of the Empire, had a species responded with such casual dismissal. They did not beg for mercy. They did not offer tribute. They did not even seem impressed. They just repeated their question as if Thaxion's entire speech had been nothing but background noise. Then something happened that made every sensor on the Vrelian fleet scream in warning. The human ship powered up its weapons. They did not fire. They did not target the Vrelian vessels. They simply activated every weapons system on their ship simultaneously, and the energy signature lit up the darkness like a newborn star. The sensor officer on Thaxion's ship watched in disbelief as the readings climbed higher and higher. "Commander," he stammered, "their railguns are charging. Acceleration profiles indicate they can launch projectiles at 0.4 light speed. Their particle beam weapons are online, channeling plasma at temperatures that match the surface of a star. Point defense systems are tracking everything. I count 4,000 independent targeting locks across our entire fleet." Thaxion stared at the display, unable to speak. He had seen weapons before. He had fought in battles. But this was different. The sheer amount of destructive power the humans had just casually revealed was staggering. Any one of those weapon systems could cripple a Vrelian cruiser. The humans had dozens of them. Then the main cannon activated. The science officer's voice cracked as he read the data. "Commander, their primary weapon is tearing open space-time itself. It is a gravity lance. It compresses matter into a singularity at the point of impact. That weapon should not be possible. Our physicists theorize about such technology, but we are centuries away from building it. They have one mounted on a light cruiser." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Mitchell watched the alien vessels carefully. She could see them backing away slightly, their formation loosening. Good. They were getting the message. She turned to Hayes. "Keep weapons hot but do not acquire target locks. I want them nervous, not desperate." "Aye, Captain," Hayes replied, a slight smile on his face. "They are definitely nervous. 3 of their ships just activated their emergency jump drives." Mitchell nodded. This was not the first time someone had made the mistake of treating a human vessel as an easy target. It probably would not be the last. But she preferred to educate rather than destroy when possible. "Cooper, send another message. Tell them we are still waiting for an explanation, and our patience has limits." The message crossed the void in seconds. On the Vrelian command ship, Thaxion read it and made a decision that probably saved his fleet. He opened a direct communication channel. It was time to talk to these humans and try to understand what his people had stumbled into, before he started a war that would end very badly for everyone involved. Commander Thaxion took a deep breath before opening the direct communication channel. His claws hovered over the controls for a moment as he gathered his courage. Finally, he pressed the button and his display flickered to show the interior of the human bridge. A woman sat in the command chair, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes sharp and alert. She looked directly at him without a trace of fear. "I am Commander Thaxion of the Vrelian Empire. I apologize for scanning your vessel without permission. We encountered an unknown ship in our patrol sector and followed standard identification protocols. He kept his voice steady, diplomatic. May I ask who you are and what brings you to this region of space? The human woman nodded slightly. I am Captain Rebecca Mitchell of the Terran Federation starship Indomitable. We are on a survey mission, mapping this sector for future navigation routes. We mean no harm to anyone, but we do not appreciate being scanned like laboratory specimens. Thaxon felt a strange mixture of relief and growing dread. The humans seemed reasonable, professional. But the scans had revealed so much about their violent nature. He needed to understand more. Captain Mitchell, I must be honest with you. Our scans revealed concerning information about your species and your vessel. I am trying to understand what we have encountered. Mitchell leaned back in her chair and something that might have been a smile crossed her face. You scanned us without permission and now you are concerned about what you found? That seems backwards, Commander. But I will answer your questions if you answer mine. Fair trade. Agreed, Thaxon said quickly. Good. Then let me save us both some time, Mitchell said. She touched a control on her armrest and data began flowing to the Vrelian ship. This is basic information about humanity and the Terran Federation. We reached interstellar space 30 years ago. We have explored approximately 200 systems so far. We have not encountered any other intelligent species until today. You are our first contact. Thaxion absorbed this information with growing unease. 30 years. These beings had gone from a single planet to building ships with weaponized stellar cores in just 30 years. The Vrelians had taken 3 centuries to reach the same level. Your technological advancement is remarkable, he said carefully. Mitchell shrugged. We are engineers by necessity. Our homeworld taught us to build things that last and to plan for the worst possible scenarios. When we finally left Earth and saw how big the universe really was, we knew we needed to be prepared. We assumed we would eventually meet other species, and we had no idea if they would be friendly. So you built warships, Thaxion said. We built ships that could defend themselves, Mitchell corrected. Everything else is secondary. The Indomitable is primarily a survey vessel. The weapons are there because we learned long ago that hoping for peace while preparing for war is better than the alternative. She paused. You looked at our history, Commander. You know what we did to each other before we reached the stars. We fought wars for thousands of years. We perfected the art of killing beings who thought exactly like us, who were just as clever and adaptable as we were. Thaxion nodded slowly. That was exactly what terrified him. Mitchell continued, her voice taking on a harder edge. When we finally left Earth, we made a collective decision. All those weapons, all those tactics, all that experience in warfare, we would turn it outward. We would never fight each other again. But if something out here in the dark decided humanity was easy prey, we would show them exactly what 10,000 years of warfare had taught us. Your ship is listed as a light cruiser, Thaxion said quietly. A scout vessel. That is correct. The Indomitable is actually scheduled for decommission in 2 years. She is considered outdated. Mitchell pulled up an image on her screen. We have 3 new ship classes under construction right now. Faster engines, stronger shields, better weapons. Each generation of ships makes the last one look primitive. Thaxion felt his heart sink. This terrifying vessel with its impossible weapons was obsolete by human standards. How many ships does your Federation have? Mitchell smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. That is classified information, Commander. But I can tell you about our home system's defenses since that is public knowledge. The Sol system, where Earth is located, has 847 military vessels of various classes. We also have 300 orbital defense platforms around Earth itself. Each platform can engage targets at ranges exceeding 1 million kilometers. And we have a star-lifting array in close solar orbit. A star-lifting array? Thaxion repeated. For collecting stellar material? Among other things, Mitchell said casually. In an emergency it can be weaponized. We can use our own sun as a weapon if someone is foolish enough to attack our homeworld. We looked at the cosmos, Commander, and we decided that if anything wanted Earth, they would have to go through every human alive. And we are very, very good at making sure we take our enemies with us. The communication fell silent for a long moment. Thaxion stared at the human captain and finally understood the true scope of what he had discovered. These beings had evolved on a world that tried to kill them constantly. They had survived by being tougher and more stubborn than anything else. And now they were in space, armed with weapons that violated known physics, ready to fight the entire universe if necessary. What do you want from us, Captain? Thaxion asked finally. Mitchell's expression softened slightly. Nothing, Commander. We just want to explore and learn. But if you scan us again without permission, we will consider it a hostile act. Commander Thaxon sat alone in his quarters 3 hours after the encounter with the human ship. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared his report for the Empire Council. In 40 years of military service, he had written thousands of reports. This one was different. This one would change everything. He typed carefully, choosing each word with precision. The report detailed the scan results, the conversation with Captain Mitchell, and the terrifying capabilities of what humans considered an outdated scout ship. At the end, he added a classification he had never used before in his entire career. His claw hovered over the button for a moment before he pressed it firmly. Status: existential threat. Recommendation: do not engage under any circumstances. He sent the report and waited. The response came faster than he expected. Within 2 hours, he received a priority message ordering him to return to the home fleet immediately. The council wanted to speak with him in person. They did not believe his report. He had expected that. 3 days later, Thaxon stood in the Grand Council chamber on the Vrelian homeworld. 50 council members sat in a semicircle around him, their faces showing everything from concern to open skepticism. The head counselor, an ancient Vrelian named Kickstar, spoke first. Commander Thaxon, we have read your report 3 times. Your classification of this human species as an existential threat is extraordinary. In 6,000 years of Vrelian expansion, we have never assigned this designation to anyone. Explain yourself. Thaxon activated the holographic display and showed them everything. The scan data appeared first, raw numbers and readings that made several council members lean forward in their seats. Then came the biological analysis, the death world classification, the psychological profiles. Finally, he showed them the weapons manifest and the energy signatures from when the human ship had powered up its arsenal. The chamber fell completely silent. Kickstar stared at the display for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. This is confirmed? These readings are accurate. I ordered 3 separate scans, Counselor. I checked our equipment repeatedly. The data is accurate. Thaxon paused. And that ship, with all those weapons, with that impossible technology, is considered outdated by human standards. They are building better ones right now. Another council member, younger and more aggressive, stood up. So we destroy them now before they become a true threat. We have the largest fleet in this region of space. We can mobilize 5,000 ships within a month. We crush them while they are still weak. Thaxon turned to face the younger council member. Did you not hear what I said? That single scout ship could have destroyed my entire patrol fleet. They have 800 ships defending their home system alone. Ships with weapons that can tear holes in space itself. They come from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill them, and they survived. They spent 10,000 years fighting each other, perfecting warfare against an enemy that thought exactly like them. And you want to attack them? The young council member sat down slowly, his face pale. Kickstar made a decision. We will send your report to every member species in the Empire. We will also share it with the neighboring powers, even those we have conflicts with. Everyone needs to know about humanity. He looked directly at Thaxon. What do you think they will do? The humans? Thaxon considered the question carefully. Captain Mitchell seemed reasonable. She said they want to explore and learn. But she also made it very clear that they will defend themselves without hesitation if threatened. I believe if we leave them alone, they will leave us alone. But if anyone attacks them... He trailed off, not wanting to finish the sentence. They will show us what 10,000 years of warfare taught them, Kickstar finished quietly. Very well. I am issuing an empire-wide directive immediately. All human borders are to be respected. All contact must go through proper diplomatic channels. Under no circumstances is any Vrelian vessel to scan, threaten, or engage human ships. Is that understood? The council members murmured their agreement. Several looked relieved. Others looked angry at having to show such deference to a newcomer species. But all of them understood the alternative. Over the next weeks, the word spread across the galaxy. Species that had never known fear of anyone but each other began watching the darkness between stars with new anxiety. Trade routes were quietly adjusted to avoid human territory. Military strategists began redesigning their defense plans around a single terrifying question. What do you do when you encounter a species that evolved on a nightmare world and learned to fight by battling themselves for thousands of years? Meanwhile, the USFS Indomitable continued its survey mission, jumping from system to system, mapping navigation routes and cataloging new worlds. Captain Mitchell and her crew had no idea they had just rewritten galactic politics with a single conversation. For them it had been a routine day. They had encountered an unknown species, established that hostile actions would not be tolerated, and moved on with their mission. But across 1,000 worlds, the galaxy's predators had learned a primal truth. The most dangerous creature is not the one that looks fearsome. It is the one that survived everything and refused to die. Humanity had arrived among the stars. And the universe would never be the same.